Coming up on today's show, Fulton County's jail crisis has hit a breaking point. Now $1 billion plan is on the table to fix it. We'll examine what's all involved. Also, professors in Georgia are warning that a new mandate could put them in the crosshairs. We're going to find out why the Board of Regents is now calling for every class syllabus to be made public. And soap and sanitizer are a part of our daily life. But what would happen if the protection lasted longer? Researchers at UGA may have found an answer. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines. We look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to give their take and their expertise on today's top stories as well, and we try to have maybe just a little bit of fun. All right, let's start with this morning. City and county leaders are discussing next steps when it comes to the Fulton County Jail. Since 2023, the county has been working with the city of Atlanta to combat overcrowding and house some of its inmates at the Atlanta City Detention Center. Monday's Atlanta City Council meeting urged starting planning now for moving Fulton County inmates out of the City Detention Center, part of a phased withdrawal ahead of its lease ending in December of 2026. Meanwhile, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners is scheduled to consider later this week a $1.1 billion capital improvement plan for the facility. It includes construction of a new facility next to the Rice Street Jail dedicated to detainees with mental health, and other special needs. As Chairman Rob Pitts was announcing the plan, opponents of this proposal said this was the wrong approach.
We understand that more cages, as is shown, has not improved the human rights abuses that are taking place in the Fulton County Jail. More than 20 people have died since the lease went into place at the Fulton County Jail. And proposing yet another idea for the Fulton County Board of Commissioners to invest in a new space, to build a new space, does not yet address those concerns that have been the center of our opposition since day one.
All right, let's bring in Fulton County Chairman Rob Pitts again today. Welcome back to The Take, my friend.
Great to be with you again.
All right, you've called this plan a priority. What pushed you to put such a massive proposal on the table right now?
Well, it's been in the works for some time. We worked with a internationally known consultant to review not only Rice Street, but the city jail, our jail in Union City, to find out and to advise us on what the best possible approach is. Now, I happen to agree with those who say that building more cages, more jail beds is not the answer. I totally agree with that. And so that's why this is a much smaller operation than what was the plan. You know, the original plan was for a jail, construction of a jail in excess of $2 billion with some 4,000 or 5,000 beds. That was ridiculous to me, which is why I never supported that. I was always for, and still am, for renovating Rice Street, which is what this plan involves. In addition to renovating Rice Street, it also involves this new component, which is the construction of what we're calling a special purpose facility. And as you indicated, this will be for inmates with mental health issues, with medical issues, and other special needs. And the reason this is important is because it's estimated that somewhere between 40% and 70% of the inmates at our jail, have these special needs. So they do not need to be housed in cages, so to speak. So that's why this was so important to me, and why it's going to be before the Board of Commissioners to vote up or down this coming Wednesday. In the meantime, we're still talking with the city of Atlanta about the city jail. We still need that jail. I've been in conversations with the mayor about it. We will either buy it from the city or lease it from the city. And if we were to get that, that would go a long ways towards reducing the need, even for beds, because this we're talking about up to some 3,200 beds in this new facility. But if we were able to get that city jail, we could reduce the number of beds that we need in this new special purpose facility. Gotcha. The other reason that this special purpose facility is going to be important to us is that during the renovation of Rice Street, we'll have to transfer those inmates someplace. So they will be housed in this new special purpose facility while Rice Street is being renovated, as opposed to us finding space for them in other jails like Cobb County, where we have a significant number of our inmates there in Cobb County that costs us a pretty penny. So I think this is, hate to use that expression, but I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, you were asking the public to kind of trust the timeline here, that it may stretch into the 2030s. Why should they not believe that this would turn into another stall?
Why would not return into what?
Turn into another stall, like a stall or over budget?
No, it's not, because we have to do, first of all, we are aware, as well as everybody else, about the conditions at the jail, the physical conditions. That's our responsibility. We're not responsible for the management of the jail. We're not responsible for processing inmates through the jail. The county, the Board of Commissioners, we're responsible for the physical plant. That's what we're dealing with here, making improvements. In addition to that, you're well aware of the fact that we're now under a court order. We have a special monitor working with us. And the monitor, we're working with the monitor to address the physical conditions at the jail. Mm-hmm. So this plan is consistent with what her findings are to date.
Gotcha. 10 years from now, if the plan is fully realized, what do you want people to say about how Fulton County handled this crisis?
Well, I think that they did the right thing, and that in terms of looking out for really the humane treatment of the inmates. They may be inmates, but they're still human beings. That's number one. And number two, we were very mindful of the cost of this facility and who pays for it. It's not the Board of Commissioners' money, it's the taxpayers' money. And the plan that we have in place at this point will not require a millage rate increase.
Gotcha. All right, Commissioner Rob Pitts, really appreciate you being with us today and appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, folks, you're watching The Take. We'll be back right after this. As President Trump continues his effort to end Russia's war against Ukraine, the White House is responding or pondering the next steps. Joining us now is Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, hello to you. It was an amazing scene yesterday at the White House. We saw the president with Ukraine's President Zelensky, but also several top-level European leaders as well. Talk to us about the meeting and how it all unfolded.
Yeah, it really was remarkable imagery just to see. First of all, you had a bilateral meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky and their small teams. And that right there looked very different than the last time that we saw those two men together in the Oval Office, because in that last meeting, there was a bit of a shouting match. There was clearly a lot of tension. President Trump and Vice President Vance accused President Zelensky of not being grateful enough. And this time, President Zelensky made a point, I believe, maybe 6 times in his opening sentences to say thank you to President Trump and to the American people for the assistance provided to Ukraine. It was a much warmer reception and just feeling between the two men. Zelensky also wore a dark suit, which is unusual for him. Typically, he wears kind of military garb, and that's something that's been raised as an issue in the past in meetings at the White House. So that came up and was noted as a positive symbol. And then there was the vast symbolism of having all of these high-level European leaders who then came in and joined Zelensky and Trump for a broader meeting. And that really was something that we've not seen, to have that many high-level leaders of European countries sitting with President Trump inside the Oval Office. And they were there again to give this sign of solidarity, to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainian President Zelensky, and to show that it is very important to Europe to see strong backing for Ukraine to ensure that Russia's Putin is checked in his aggression, that it does not extend beyond Ukraine, and that it stops within Ukraine as well.
Gotcha. There was also a hot mic moment for the president when he was talking to the French president. Tell us about that situation.
Yeah, it was kind of revealing when you get to see, anytime you get to see something that's, you know, a little bit off camera, it tells you a little bit about how these conversations play out behind scenes. So this one was on camera, but away from the microphones, and just kind of Zelensky, or rather President Trump and President Macron were chatting off to the sides, and you President Trump could be heard telling President Macron that he thinks that Putin wants to make a deal. He said, quote, "I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that, as crazy as it sounds." So definitely President Trump leaning into the personal relationship that he has with President Putin of Russia, and he puts a lot of stock into his ability to bring Putin to the table and to ultimately agree to some kind of a peace deal here based on their background of their years of knowing each other. President Trump just spoke on Fox News and talked again about that, what he called a warm relationship. He said some people think that's a terrible idea to have a good relationship with Putin, but he thinks it's important for the two largest nuclear-armed countries to have a good relationship. And so that was that moment. And asked about it later in an interview with NBC News, President Macron said that, he puts a lot of stock in President Trump's optimism about his abilities to move Putin, though President Macron himself said he does not feel very optimistic about Putin actually wanting peace at this point.
Yeah, you mentioned Putin. The president called him and said they made arrangements to put him and Zelensky in the same room. Do we know any details about when that meeting could take place?
Yeah, no details yet, but that really is the biggest headline coming out of this, and in fact coming in the wake of the big meeting yesterday. And President Trump again just spoke about this on Fox News. He said that, he called Russian President Putin, went through kind of some of what they discussed in the meetings yesterday, and he said that he was going to set something up to have Putin and Zelensky meet together. And then he said if that goes well, that afterwards President Trump would meet with Putin and Zelensky for a trilateral meeting, and he said that would then wrap it up. And he thinks that's really the way to end this horrific onslaught that Russia's been waging against Ukraine, though he himself acknowledged that it remains to be seen if Putin is willing to go along with any real and substantial steps toward ending the war.
All right, Alice, thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate it. Take care. Colleges now have to post their course information publicly, and maybe putting them, or at least the college professors, in a line of harassment. We're going to talk about that coming up. Stay with us. All right, back in May, the University System of Georgia Board of Regents approved mandating that all of its institutions post the syllabus of a course on their public websites. This means that courses publicly post syllabus must include a description of the course, any required readings, and key learning objectives. By fall of 2026, all courses must have a syllabus publicly posted by the time of registration. Some professors, however, say the new rule could leave them vulnerable to harassment and political targeting. Joining us now is Matthew Bodie, University of North Georgia Associate Professor of Rhetoric and Composition. He's also the conference president of the Georgia chapter of the American Association of University Professors. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
All right, educator, talk to me about this move by the Board of Regents.
Well, I think that this move certainly offers transparency to students and parents to know what classes they're taking and what would go on in that class. But I think the list of things you just made includes a list of readings. Students and parents get information on classes and the types of classes and the learning outcomes well before this. So they're really suggesting they want to make the list of readings public, and that's what worries me, because we've seen attacks upon higher education and faculty based upon the list of readings, whether individual people think they're inappropriate or people doing big data searches on the number of times a particular text is assigned. So the big data searches that could come from hundreds of thousands of syllabi online is what worries me.
Yeah, some lawmakers argue that the faculty is overreacting about this. It's all about accountability, not harassment. How do you respond to that?
Well, again, if you want accountability, students and parents have had access to this information, and we could have put it behind a login. If you register for a class, you get the syllabus. If you're not registered for a class, you could see what's on it. All that could be done without public preview. And again, the university system is responding to these conservative lawmakers who want more information. Over the last several years, conservative lawmakers have asked for syllabi for different reasons, and they're welcome to do that. Yeah. If lawmakers want to hold us accountable, please do that. But we didn't need to do this in a broad public fashion.
They're framing this as transparency, but you're saying they have access. Why now? Why is this happening now?
Well, I think that we've seen a trend across the South of government officials, people who don't like higher education, attacking it in different ways, whether it is cutting tenure or telling us we can't teach certain materials or cutting classes altogether. This is another in the line of those things.
Yeah. In your view, what gets lost when transparency becomes exposed? Does that invite the harassment?
Well, again, I don't like to use the word weaponization, but this idea that transparency is the only thing that's going to happen because of this is false. Yes, I'm all for more transparency. If you want to come to my class, you're welcome to do that. If you want to see the list of readings that I'm assigning, you're welcome to do that. But transparency used in the fashion that it's being used now, in the culture that we live in, certainly has shown us bad effects already of people being harassed through email, people knowing where they're going to be. All these things are concerns I've heard from faculty.
If you had a chance to sit down with the Board of Regents or a Chancellor, Sonny Perdue, what would you ask them or talk to them about this particular situation?
Well, I say the Board of Regents, while they meet publicly, does not allow public comment at their meetings, and I have tried in the past to talk with them, and they're not open to that. Certainly, the Chancellor has met with faculty on a regular basis. We have a group of statewide faculty that meet with him once a semester, and if he's heard our concerns about this, if I were to have him in the room right now, I would just suggest, again, there are ways to do this, ways to be transparent with students and parents. If that's the motivation they're saying they're using, there's ways to do this behind a login that doesn't allow public access.
Yeah. All right. So you're saying that, hey, look, if they ask for the information, they can get it if they don't know where to find it. And so this is not really about the transparency piece. So it must be about something else. And you hinted at a couple of those things. And so we got that certainly. All right. Matthew Brody, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right. All right, folks, plenty more stories for you coming up. This is The Take. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Grocery bills are finally starting to ease up, but many shoppers still feel like every time they go to the grocery store, they get sticker shock. It feels like a little gut punch to them, right? All right, time to welcome back in a friend of the show, consumer expert, Morgan Ward. Welcome back, Morgan. Haven't seen you in a little bit.
Thank you, Chesley.
All right, shoppers still feel like every time they go to the grocery store, they get a gut punch. What's going on with that?
Well, even though inflation has cooled at this point, it's about 1% year over year, people still feel like prices are extremely high. And a lot of that is coming from the fact that we're comparing our current prices of 2025 to our pre-pandemic prices of 2019, which means that we're still feeling like they're very high, even though they actually have come down. So more than 50% of people are saying that prices at the grocery store feel too high or stressful for them.
Yeah. Is this more about our wallets, or is it more about like a memory of the pre-pandemic prices making everything feel overpriced?
Yeah, the reference pricing. Essentially, we remember certain prices, and those prices were lower 6 years ago. But now that they've even come down since 2022, really what we remember is those low prices of before the pandemic, and that's really what's driving it.
All right. Speaking of anxiety, right? Sounds like a lot of folks are still fearful over being stranded by an electronic vehicle. What's behind the range of anxiety?
Yeah, it's really funny. So EV range anxiety is real. And even though most EVs now go as far in one charge as a normal gas-powered car, like 300 miles, people have these memories of these very vivid stories of getting stranded somewhere on a highway with their family and not being able to find a way to charge. So even though we have the ability now to go pretty far, some as far as 400 miles, a lot of consumers are still stressed that they might be stranded or stuck somewhere without the ability to move their car.
So do you think this is a psychological thing because we're still new to EVs?
Yeah, there's two things, that the psychological, that's just very vivid, that idea. And the other is that there's lots of charging stations, but they are not evenly distributed. So in rural areas or on highways, you may actually not know where your next charge is coming from. So if you're in a downtown area or a city, you can find it, but there are still lots of places where there are not EV charges, and people do know that.
Yeah. All right. Finally, we've talked about social media's impact on consumers, but we're finding out that people are willing to follow and even trust influencers that don't actually exist.
Yeah, AI influencers are taking over, and it's really hard to figure out what's real and what's not. I've been fooled for sure, but some of the AI influencers now have more people following them than human influencers. Like Lil Michaela has, I think, 2.5 million followers. So they've become a very important voice in the social media space.
So when people find out that their favorite influencer is just an algorithm, does it break the bond of trust there, or does it just feel like another ad?
Yeah, people accidentally form attachments to things all the time that are not human. And so we're very quick to form connections. But when you think something is human, when you think somebody is an actual person and you find out that they're actually code, it can be alienating and make you distrust more and more.
All right, looks like we lost her signal there, but you get the picture, right? Thanks a lot, Morgan. Really appreciate it. All right, vapor detection machines are now being placed in schools. We're going to talk about that coming up next. And a little bit later on in the show, that's going to be a little bit later on the show, but right after the break, Catholic Charities are taking another hit due to the federal cuts. We're going to talk about that right after the break. Catholic Charities Atlanta has long been a lifeline for immigrants and refugees, but sweeping changes in federal immigration policy are now cutting off critical funding and reshaping how the organization can serve. Here now is Allison Hernandez with the Catholic Charities of Atlanta. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, Chesley.
All right. Seems like your ultimate question is, how does a mission build on its welcoming the strangers adapt when the rules of welcoming have been rewritten?
Well, Catholic Charities is celebrating its 50th anniversary of creating welcome in the Atlanta community. So we've been doing this work before there was a government partnership that allowed us to strengthen and grow this work. And we're just looking for creative ways to continue that work now and into the future. Welcome doesn't depend on a certain grant or a certain source of funding. It's a key pillar to community. And so that outlasts time and changes in our world. It's remained the same for 50 years, and we're looking to continue that spirit now and moving forward.
Yeah. Allison, when a mother or father comes to you and they're afraid of being deported, what's that conversation like?
We really work with families just to help them in the here and now, understand what their options are. Most of the families that come through the refugee resettlement program have a legal pathway. They went through all their security vetting overseas. They are considered the most heavily vetted group of individuals in our country. So when they come to our program, they've gone through a lot of that work. We just help get them on the right foot, get their life started. In a very successful program, 92% of our families achieve self-sufficiency within the first 8 months, which is remarkable when you think about going from nothing to having a thriving life in America. And so really, we just help them navigate those next steps to growing their families and giving their children a better future as well.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the work that you do is very rewarding, but then you have to also deliver some bad news to families. How does your staff deal with that when a family has already been through some trauma and they have to give them some more bad news?
Well, so, trauma is all around us, whether you're, from the United States, coming from outside, and Catholic Charities Atlanta really hopes to meet people in those hard times and help them build a plan to work through those hard times. So whether that is someone's immigration status, we have an immigration legal services team that can't change someone's reality, can't change someone's pathway, but can consult with them on their options and if they have a pathway to citizenship, and really just seek to be, community members alongside our neighbors going through difficult times, whoever they are.
Yeah, you talked about those immediate needs like food and housing, but there's also some long-term goals. How do you balance the two out?
Whenever a client comes through our door for any of our programs, our first step is to sit down with them and do an assessment of their needs. What are they trying to achieve by coming to our services? And we work with them on goal setting and how we can work alongside them to achieve their self-sufficiency goals. Really, our intention is to be not be needed. We want folks to be independent and thriving. And in the short term, sometimes that's some food or connections to housing to get them on their feet and stabilized, but we have workforce development programs, English language programs, mental health counseling programs that really seek to enhance someone's life for the better and for the long-term future.
I probably should have asked you this off the top. How does the policy change and the cuts to funding, how has that affected you all?
It's definitely impacted us. I think the partnership with the federal government was a core resource in how we were able to reach more folks and provide more assistance. And more than anything, I think our clients felt the impact, those who were in the program and felt those changes immediately. But we at Catholic Charities Atlanta really worked to minimize that impact on clients. We wanted them to focus on achieving their self-sufficiency. So we tried to fill those gaps and really make that as seamless as possible for them. And like I said, we, are thankful that at Catholic Charities Atlanta, we've been doing this work for 50 years before the federal government was a partner with us, and we will continue this work now and moving forward, just looking for other ways to sustain and support the work that we're doing.
Yeah. Everyday Atlantans may want to play a role in it. How do they help you fill the gaps?
Well, we encourage everyone to visit our website, catholiccharitiesatlanta.org, just to learn more about the work that we are doing. You can also find out how to donate, but also volunteer your time. A lot of people who cannot give financially are involved by volunteering or interning within our programs, and we welcome that as well.
All right. Thanks a lot, Allison Hernandez. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insight today, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Take a look. The Benz. A little quiet now, but Dallas. Well, they're going to Dallas, actually. That's going to be a Friday kickoff at 8 o'clock. Hopefully they'll beat them up, right? That's a preseason game, of course. The opening season at the Benz will be September 7th. They'll be hosting Tampa Bay, division rival there, and so hopefully it'll be rocking there. I'm sure it will be. First game of the season, first home game of the season. A lot of folks will be out there tailgating. Hopefully the weather will be just like it is right now, at least, where temperatures are in the 70s and 80s, so that'll be pretty nice. Hopefully I'll be out there tailgating with you as well. Go Falcons, right? For those of you who love them so much. All right, last week, the Cobb County School Board approved a $1.6 million plan to install vape detectors in every high school across the district. The detectors will be placed in locker rooms and restroom areas where identified as hot spots. This follows last month's move by Marietta City Schools to install vape sensors in middle schools and high school, as well as the Woods Wilkins campus. With us now to explain more on this is Ryan Schroeder. He's the Vice President of Sensor Solutions at Motorola Solutions. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Chesley. Thanks for having me on. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Let's start with how a vape detector works.
All right, so a vape detector works by monitoring the air quality, and with our vape sensors out there, when somebody exhales the vape from a vape device, we're able to pick up the particles in the air and detect that, and send alerts out to either the school resource officer, to the superintendent, to the principal, whoever we decide that you need to notify that somebody may be vaping inside a restroom.
Does it know the difference between, like when you say smoke particles, right? Let's say it's picking up nicotine, or it's picking up maybe a fog from a deodorant spray can. Does it know the difference in that?
Great question. Absolutely, it does. So our sensors have, multiple sensors built into the Halo Smart Sensor. And we're able to go ahead and detect whether it's an aerosol. We consider that masking. That's became a problem across the schools out there, where the children believe they can go inside the restroom, vape, and then cover it up with, say, hairspray or Axe body spray, and that will alert that somebody's using some sort of aerosol to cover up. We should still go ahead and receive that. Vape is also detected in the area, so we'll be able to receive, 2 different alerts. That's what's going on to draw attention over to that restroom. Yeah.
So what happens when a student vapes? Does a sensor go off, or is it like a silent alarm that's alerted? How does that work?
You have your options there. It could set off a, audible alarm. It could set off a silent alarm. Or, I have the device here behind me over my shoulder. I could also do a, visual alarm, blink various colors, depending on how the school district would like to go ahead and deploy that.
You've been talking to school leaders. What's the number one reason why they're saying they need this technology?
Vaping, we go back a decade, this wasn't even a conversation. Over the last few years, this, continues to be an epidemic across schools. That's what information we're receiving back from the school districts out there. When the students are picking up vaping, they're developing a nicotine addiction, and they're skipping class. They're trying to find a place where they can't be found, and it's taking away from their learning. We've also found over the last few years that we continue to deploy these. There's so much more use that these vape sensors can go ahead and offer the school districts and businesses outside of schools. I mentioned earlier, we have several different types of sensors built into the Vape Halo Smart Sensor. And some of the things that we can pick up on is, aggression, duress words, occupancy, too many people in the restroom. We can set up keywords where, students or staff can, be taught some of those keywords and announce them and go ahead and send off a silent alarm back to school administration or the local school resource officer that is on site.
Yep, with all technology, things evolve. How do you see this evolving in the next 3 to 5 years?
Over the next 3 to 5 years, I expect this to continue to grow. This started out, really dealing with the epidemic around vaping and kids in middle school and high school. But some of our largest school districts out there are now, deploying these across the entire school district, almost, in every single room to monitor air quality as well. So originally we were just looking for, the vaping, the nicotine, THC, but some of the largest school districts across the U.S. are now deploying these in almost every single room to be able to, initiate some sort of a panic alert, as well as, monitor air quality. We talked earlier about the aerosols, the fragrances, everybody's spraying stuff inside, or if we go look, up at our northern border, Canadian wildfires, that smoke coming down. Poor air quality could lead to, again, distractions and education for, young children out there.
Gotcha, right.
So as more and more, schools pick up on this, I think it's, beyond, protecting vape. It's just going to better the education environment for our children across America.
All right, Ryan Schroeder, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for the insight today, all right?
All right, thank you very much.
All right, take care. All right, still to come, CNN's Maribel Aber joins us to talk about the latest back and forths on Wall Street. You want to stay tuned for that. Welcome back to the show. Wall Street's sending mixed messages or mixed signals today, and investors are trying to make sense of it all. And we want to make sense of it all, too. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Hello, Maribel.
Hi, Chesley.
All right, this market dancing thing, right? It's making us nervous.
It's making us nervous, Chesley. It takes two to tango. Wall Street focused on Jackson Hole, Wyoming this week, where the dance is happening. That's where the Federal Reserve is holding its annual conference. And the highlight, a speech from Fed Chair Jerome Powell on Friday. Investors are looking for some signs as to what Powell and the Fed are thinking on interest rates. Now, most are now expecting at least a quarter-point rate cut in September. Remember, President Trump has been pushing Powell to lower rates for months now, and Powell has resisted, saying it was too soon to see the impact of tariffs on inflation and the economy. The stocks were in a bit of a holding pattern yesterday ahead of Powell's speech. This morning in the early going, looks like stocks are mixed. Here at NASDAQ, we look to be down about 76 points. The Dow up 168 and the S&P down almost 2 points. So Chesley, Wall Street is glued to Jackson Hole, waiting for Powell to speak before making its next big move.
So are the rest of us. Well, some people want Ozempic on the cheap. One pharmaceutical giant is making some surprise moves, right?
Is this cheap, though, Chesley? That's the question. Novo Nordisk is offering Ozempic for less than half price for U.S. patients paying cash. Now, the blockbuster diabetes treatment can be bought for $499 a month in cash. Patients can get that price on the drug's official website and the company's direct-to-consumer online pharmacy. And drug savings company GoodRx will also be offering Ozempic and its weight loss counterpart Wegovy for $499 per month. That will make the discounts available at more than 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. The price cut comes as drug makers face increasing political pressure to lower prices in the U.S. And Novo Nordisk's cash pay offering will expand access to eligible type 2 diabetes patients who don't have insurance coverage for the weekly injection. Earlier this year, the company began to offer Wegovy for half its list price to cash-paying U.S. patients. Chesley, slimming down the sticker price, but it's still not cheap.
Yeah, doesn't sound like it to me. Doesn't sound that cheap. All right, we got a major shakeup in the media world, and it has to do with us here on the Peacock. Talk about the split between MSNBC and NBC News.
Okay, MSNBC is getting a new name as it splits from NBC News. The cable channel will be called MS now, which stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. MSNBC will also stop using the iconic peacock logo associated with NBC Universal brands. The changes come as MSNBC's corporate parent Comcast spins off most of its cable channels into a new company called Versant. Late last year, Comcast approved that $7 billion spinoff of its NBC Universal cable channels, but NBC, Bravo, and the Peacock streaming service will stay under the NBC Universal umbrella. The split is set to take effect later this year. MSNBC, by the way, started back in 1996. Chesley, for the viewers, it's like trimming the crust of your favorite your sandwich, like a PB&J, okay? The content won't change, just the packaging.
Ah, okay. Yeah, you just take those edges off. Got it now. Thank you so much, Mary Bell. We appreciate it. Have a great day. All right. Coming up on the show, UGA may have created a better hand sanitizer to tackle those tough germs. We're going to talk about that coming up. Stay with us. Well, you got to wash your hands. That's quite understandable. You should be doing that, right? Recent studies show after the pandemic, majority of Americans wash their hands typically 6 to 9 times a day. The CDC strongly suggests using soap and water when it's available, but does state that alcohol-based sanitizers are acceptable as an alternative. Now, researchers at UGA may have a breakthrough, a long-lasting gel that kills tough germs better than that alcohol-based sanitizer. With us now is Elizabeth Brisbois, an associate professor at UGA's College of Engineering. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Hi, good morning.
All right. First of all, what sparked your team to dive into this hand sanitizer thing?
Well, just like you were talking about, in general, the society now has a lot of heightened awareness related to health and trying to avoid spread of infectious diseases. Also related to that, more specifically in the healthcare setting, there's a lot of emphasis right now on trying to reduce rates of hospital-acquired infections, reduce medical device-related infections, and also come up with new technologies that can help us fight this battle against antibiotic resistance. And so a lot of that awareness just kind of inspired us to try to think of new ways that we can use some of the technologies that we're developing in our lab to help avoid those infection-related issues.
All right, in plain terms, how does the gel actually work?
Yeah, so the hand sanitizer gel that we developed kind of has two major differences between the traditional ones that you might find on the market. The first difference is related to the technology that we developed. So our technology in the hand sanitizer uses a small molecule called nitric oxide. And this nitric oxide molecule is really important because it's actually a molecule that our body and our immune system produces to fight infections. And so what we wanted to do is take those really positive benefits that our body uses and incorporate that nitric oxide molecule into our hand sanitizer. Of course, our hand sanitizer also has several other ingredients that are commonly used in other traditional hand sanitizers. The main ones being ethanol, which is a really good agent to kill different bacteria and virus species. We also incorporated tea tree oil, which is an essential oil used in many products to also provide antimicrobial activity. And then the last major ingredient was glycerin, because a lot of these alcohol-based ingredients can be very drying to the skin, and so the glycerin can be added to help avoid that drying side effect and provide moisture.
Gotcha. Do you see this as a complement to traditional soap and water, or possibly a replacement to that?
I think there's no replacement, no complete replacement for, washing your hands, but I think the hand sanitizers are a great alternative because you can take them with you wherever you're going. They're readily available, so there's a lot of benefits from that perspective.
One of the criticisms of hand sanitizer was that you're not really wiping off the germs, just kind of, you know, I guess wiping them around, that kind of thing. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard of that, and I would say that's kind of one of the advantages of our hand sanitizer is that traditional hand sanitizers like the alcohols, they have this really short-term effect, so they'll kill the bacteria right when you apply that hand sanitizer. But the nitric oxide-based hand sanitizer that we developed has a longer-term effect, which is really exciting. So one of the experiments that we did is we applied hand sanitizer to skin, let it sit for 2 hours, and then tested how well it killed bacteria after that 2-hour period. And we found that our nitric oxide-based hand sanitizer, after 2 hours from that initial application, killed 90% more bacteria than traditional hand sanitizer.
Wow. My wife is a nurse. You know, those in the health field, they use hand sanitizer all the time. She's always talking about how it dries out her skin, that kind of thing. Is this more of a game changer for them or for all of us?
I think it has potential everywhere. I mean, certainly there's a lot of benefits in a healthcare setting because you're trying to be more careful around those patients who are, you know, addressing or facing different health issues. But even everyday people could benefit from this technology.
Oh yeah, I'd use it. I'd try it at least. What's the timeline for getting this product out of the lab and into the hands of customers?
Yeah, so I hope it's soon, but to be honest with you, it probably will take a few more years. You know, part of that is related to the fact that we need to do some additional testing. So the study that we completed and recently published shows, you know, the potential for this new technology, and we showed that it could kill a couple of bacteria strains that are really common. But some of that additional research is going to be related to doing additional testing against more bacteria that are common and also viruses, because we haven't explored that yet.
Yeah.
And then there's also a lot of additional testing required by the FDA as well. So we'll need a few more years to complete all of those studies. But I would say that we've done our best to set ourselves up for success in that direction. We filed patents to protect this technology, and we also have a startup company that's kind of leading all the efforts in this commercialization direction.
Elizabeth, you got a name for it yet?
Not a specific name, although in the paper we called it NOREL, which kind of stands for nitric oxide release. So that's kind of a name we commonly refer to it as so far.
That may stick. That may stick. I like it a lot. Elizabeth Brisbois, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight on this new development.
Yeah, thanks. Great to talk to you.
All right, take care. Another check on your forecast, and I'll have my final take right after the break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We are looking at 91 degrees for the afternoon high temperature today. Humidity is still around. That means it's going to feel much hotter than that 91. As if 91 isn't hot enough, right? About a 40% chance that you could see some relief in the form of showers and thunderstorms. 40% chance means that we'll have a decent amount of coverage. Not everyone will receive those thunderstorms, though. It even goes down on Wednesday and Thursday, down to a 30% chance, mainly during the afternoon. 92 degrees will be the high temperature on both of those days. 50% chance as we head into Friday, so that goes back up again, and those temperatures will go down thanks to the extra cloud cover and the threat for the rain to be around. 85 on Saturday. Sunday we'll get back up to 87, 88 on Monday with a very low threat, only 20% chance for the rain. You know, it's very rare to hear the news of a 10-year-old receiving a full scholarship to college. 10 years old. But Kendall Ray Johnson is a rare young an offer to South Carolina State University, not for athletics or even music or entertainment or anything like that. Kendall was made that offer because she's a farmer. Among her many accomplishments, Kendall Ray is the youngest USDA certified farmer in the United States. This young lady got her start at the age of 3. She learned how to grow collard greens with her grandmother on the back porch. Today, her farm, which is about an acre in size, produces everything from peaches and strawberries to beets and okra. Kendall Ray not only enjoys growing fruits and vegetables, she shares her joy of farming with the community through her charity called Kendall Ray's Green Heart, which educates young people about sustainability practices. You got business and agricultural practices as well. 10 years old. 10 years old. I'd say the future is bright, folks. If we can get some more Kendall Rays going, let's raise them up, all right? Make it a great day, folks. That's all we got for you today. Try to encourage someone, would you?